my jam. For those who know me, that is my theme song. This is my jam. Yeah, this is too much, this outfit. Okay. All right. Thank you. Brookie, I love you. Okay. Hi, guys, to all the people that are my friends in the room, and I love you. My amazing husband of 3 weeks, who got married here 3 weeks ago. Super awesome. It's the last time we also saw sun, FYI. This is pretty cool. I was going to set my alarm for 8 minutes, and then I thought, that sounds really awful, because if you know me, what you do know is that I'm really awful. I'm not brief. Okay. So, first of all, number one, thank you, 425 Magazine. Thank you so much. Thank you to Lisa Patterson. Thank you to the team at 425. And, of course, our forever cheerleader and unofficial member of our board that we don't have, Jordy Samuel. Thank you so much. Oftentimes walks into our owners' meetings, and he's like, oh, you didn't tell me there's an owners' meeting. I'm like, well, we don't have a board, so there's that. Congratulations to my fellow honorees. Your contributions are vast. Your hearts are immense, and we are all grateful for all that you've done in our community. I follow you. I watch you. I love you. It is amazing. You inspire me. Thank you so much for everything you're sharing tonight. This is hard and weird and cool and awesome. And I forgot to ask you if I had anything in my teeth. Like, there's all the things. Okay. I don't know how to work this thing, so we're going to just... There you go. Okay. All right. So, that's my twinsy. That's my dad. The theme of tonight was breaking barriers, which I thought was so interesting, because there are a lot of, women are often... acknowledged for breaking barriers. Minorities are often acknowledged for breaking barriers. Those who we don't expect to do very much are often acknowledged for breaking barriers. But the fact of the matter is, at some point in our life, we all break some kind of barrier, whether it's mental or something that someone put in front of us that we said we couldn't do. And I think that's pretty awesome. So my challenge to you tonight, I love giving a challenge, because what's awesome is I hope you guys all DM me and say, or if you want to email me too or call me, it's very public information, sorry, John, that what your barrier was and how you broke it, because that is what gives me life, like literal life. I'm like, go get it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not the one that broke the barrier, right? My dad was black, my mom was white. They got married in 1969. They were from Pennsylvania. You fill in the blanks. It didn't go well. It was a disaster. No one talked to my mom. No one talked to my dad. He couldn't get into Pennsylvania, or he couldn't get into West Point. He ended up having to go to Pennsylvania Military Academy, but that's great, because he met my mom, and that's awesome. But the fact of the matter is, the people who broke the barriers were those who came before me. And my great-great-grandfather, Carol, was in the Indian Wars. My great-great-grandfather was a chaplain in World War I. My great-grandmother, Grace, was a suffragette, if you know all about the women's movement, which is pretty awesome. I have lots of pictures of her and lots of the famous women there. Absolutely amazing. My dad, Colonel Morris, unfortunately died September 14th of last year. And he worked for Colin Powell and didn't get into West Point, but ended up achieving an incredible honor of being the first black commander of Fort Meade, and he was absolutely incredible. And my mom, who was white, who married a black guy, who ultimately gave her entire life to me. And what is so interesting about all of this is that first of all, my family bought our freedom with military service. Now, those of you who know Jax, my son, he'll be the first male who has to decide whether or not he's going to go into the military in 4 generations. So if you see him, if you want to give him any sort of professional counseling, he's probably going to need it. There's a lot there. My grandmother and my grandfather both went to Howard. The entire black side of my family has master's degrees, whereas the entire white side of my family served in the AT&T pool. They were, blue collar. It was a very interesting situation. And if you've ever heard the song Allentown, I invite you to sing it. I'm sure you will. That was life. And it was such an interesting thing. But I didn't break the barriers. They did. My job was not to screw it up, right? So I was an only child. Anybody want to raise their hand? Oldest, only? Super fun. I really almost screwed it up. It could have been a disaster. But my goal was not to take it for granted. And it took me a little while to understand exactly what all of this meant. And so with that, what did I do? Super fun. Well, I grew up, unfortunately, so, it's so funny. Is anybody here in YPO Seattle? Anyone? Raise your hand. YPO. We got 3 YPOers in the house. Awesome. So in YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization, which I'm a part of, is a great organization. I love it. It saved me. It was the second organization that saved me. The first organization that were, organized thing that saved me was a sport. And I'll get into that. But what's so interesting is that when you go through this and you look at what happens to you, right? You have to kind of go back in YPO, and they make you go through this lifeline exercise, and you have to tell this whole story. And you're in there and you got all these people and they're like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and it was great. Mine looks like someone needs to resuscitate me. It's like, beep, 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 beep. You can't write it. It's so interesting. I don't have enough time to tell the entire story, but what I can tell you is that it has been a lot of extraordinarily high highs. It has been extraordinarily low lows. But what I do know is that I am grateful. And I did a lot of looking into the face of I can't. And so the first thing is, sure, it's not going to be a super shock, but my parents were married for 10 years. They had a great time, and they got divorced. And my mom was on welfare. She was on food stamps. Her parents wouldn't talk to her. She was white. They told her, you should have married that black guy, right? And it was a mess. It was a hot mess. But I think I brought everybody back together. I look at my baby picture, I was like, I was so cute. But that's not why. It's because my mom was so awesome. And I know that now because she was a great uniter. She helped everybody understand that, the next generation is what we're here for. And what do we want to do? Do we want to do what we just did, or do we want to do better? And I think we did. So I faced a lot of hardships. I grew up on welfare. I had food stamps. I was poor. But I had a really amazing athletic capability, which was fantastic. I played soccer. And it helped me recognize my value because I didn't know where I fit, right? A lot of people look at me and they're like, oh, your name's Elaina. Are you Latina? I married a Cuban, but I'm not Latina. They were like, are you Greek? I'm like, I'm not Greek. Nobody would ever guess that I'm half black. And you know what that did when you grow up in an all-white Lily town. Guess what happens? People put you down. And they don't mean to. Nobody means to do that. I believe wholeheartedly in the good of all people. I believe wholeheartedly in positive intent. And when I look at what I went through, what I know is when you know better, you do better. Right? Who said that? Quiz? And Oprah? Okay. I love Oprah. She gives away cars. Who doesn't love Oprah? But anyways, everybody said like the odds were against me, right? They just were. They were against me. And I had a lot of, you can't do that. You won't do that. How could you do that? You're just this, you're just that. It's hard to believe that you would take a 10-year-old kid and be like, this is not for you. But that's kind of how it was. And you know what it did? It started this negative fuel sale, right? Which, by the way, God bless the therapist, but just got rid of that sucker. If you think about like Iron Man, right, and the little like thing, and he gets rid of it. That was me. I was like, I'm going to get rid of this negative fuel cell, but it helped me to achieve a lot of things that I did. My goal in life, and where is Adele? Where are you? Adele is my GM of Tacoma, Stanford's, and we get a lot of, you can't, you shouldn't, it's Tacoma. What? Shut up. So what I like is that I did a lot of this. I went to college. That was awesome. It was great. I got a scholarship. I had no money. I got a scholarship to Virginia Tech. I was really smart. I wanted to be an engineer. I tore my ACL and I lost my scholarship. It was awesome. And I couldn't get any money. So I ended up at this place called Greensboro College, which was amazing. And I was actually informed today that I was asked to be the commencement speaker, which was really cool. So hopefully they pick me. That would be awesome. But what filled my, what is awesome is that I ended up going to college. I graduated with a degree in sociology and international business, and I used my love of and knowledge of people and the way, and just my curiosity for the way people and their brains work, and what drives people and what makes them tick and what helps them feel valued. I think that's what it was. Like, do you feel valued? And because I didn't feel valued, I wanted to help other people feel valued. So that was like my fuel. And then I met my ex-husband, and I only mention him tonight because part of my story is him. And he's from Bellevue. He's a Bellevue guy. Many of you probably have met him. Matter of fact, I think our photographer here tonight was like, last time I saw you, you were with your husband in 2019. I'm like, that was not the husband, but I know that's awkward. But we're both, it's a good thing. In any case, I got married, and I was like, both of us wanted a big family. And I had 5 miscarriages. And they were like, you can't have a baby. It was a disaster. I think those women in the room who want to be a mother, and you can't be a mother, or those parents in the room who can't be a father, and that's all you want is to be a father, it is devastating news. I have 2 great children. So here they are. They're twinsies, right? They're not twins, but they look like twins. Because they're both friggin' 5'8", and one's 11, one's 13. But I think the point is, anything can happen when you put your mind to it, right? So I overcame that. It was devastating. I overcame that. Then they said, I don't know who they is, to be honest with you. I'm just going to use the royal they. You can't be a manager of people. So I went into IT. I got an MBA in technology management. That's a whole long story. We won't go there. But they said you can't be a manager. All I ever wanted to do was develop people. I love people. I love you. You could call me. My phone number's online. I'll talk to you. Like, I do love people. Because what's so interesting to me is what makes everybody tick. And if I, at any point, and you know, maybe talk to Adele or don't, that might be scary if there's too many people. But if I can have 5 minutes to change your life, like, I will. If you can come work for me for 3.5 months and we're just a stop and you're better than you were when you came there, like, I'm grateful. Like, I really am, because that is what I think my calling is. And so they said you can't be a manager. I worked for AT&T, I worked for Lucent Technologies, I worked for SAP, I worked for you name it. I was never a manager of people. I was a manager of these big cross-functional teams, and you know what I got? I got all the projects that nobody could figure out. And you know what I figured out? I'm an entrepreneur. Bye. And so I stopped working 110 hours for myself, and I started my own business. So that's Jax. He's got a WiggleWorks sign, and I started WiggleWorks Kids, for those of you who've taken your little kids there. Indoor Kids Playground, that was my first business, and it was super awesome. I lost $1 million. I made a lot of money in tech. I lost all of it. It was awful. It was the worst. But I'm super happy for the guys who bought it. Those guys are awesome. They still own it. The Fantastic Playtorium guys, when you see them, just give them a high five, because they got it for $20,000, and I sold it to them for negative $980,000. So in any case, then after that, I was keeping my tech job, and I was like, well, shit, I have to pay off this loan. This is going to be a disaster. And so I was like, then they were like, well, you can't be an executive. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? At the time, I'd interviewed with You Name It technology company. We're not going to name it, though, because that would be rude. But what I can say is they were like, you're not a fit. I literally took every personality test for every high-level company. I got a call from Carly Fiorina, you name it. I was like in that crew of people, and I wanted to be them. That's what I wanted to be. And I was devastated. You know what's so interesting about what you said? You said things happen to you, and you're like, why? Things happen to you, and you're like, why did this happen to me? I'm devastated. I spent my life, I worked 90 hours. I got my MBA. I paid my dues. Like, I should be that person. I deserve that. You're not good enough to manage people. Well, guess what? I went off and started my own business, and now I manage 700 people. Woo! That's awesome, right? So then they said you can't be in business and make a real impact in the community and also have some profits. And I thought, that's foolish. So what do we do? Okay, what did I do? Where's Erin James? Raise your hand. That's my girl. Okay, Erin James is my marketing director, and she said, what do you want to do? Because I know like CEOing is like a thing, but you have a real passion for people and development and all this stuff and community impact. I said, yeah. And she created AHG Cares. And AHG Cares is it's not a nonprofit. Don't tell anybody I said that. Because it's not a nonprofit. It is a philanthropic arm of our company. Bam. And what we created it to do was to make sure that we are utilizing profits from all of our businesses, including ours and other people's. Thank you to Amazon. And also, we've got a couple of, I'm not going to announce any others tonight, but they're strongly considering being a part. And they're all here. But I think the point being is that you can take your what you do and you can make a real difference. We do that because it's the right thing to do. I can't keep any of my employees. Well, I don't know why. Are you doing anything good for anyone else? People want to work for someone who is doing good for the community, right? Who is doing things for other people. Our core values are you matter, team matters, service matters. Very simple. It's super simple. You matter to me. They're my family core values. You matter to me. If you aren't interested in service, you shouldn't work here. You also probably shouldn't be in our family. So maybe find a different family. And team matters because, well, I was on a sports team, and there's a lot of good that comes from being on a team. But teamwork does literally make the dream work. We cannot do anything alone. And so that was my hurdle with that. And so I did that. And then they said, well, you're not going to make it through COVID. And I'm like, oh, I might not. COVID came March, I guess it was February. It was like the end of February, beginning of March 16th. And 3 days later, my husband was like, bye. I don't want to be a part of this family anymore. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I think you're having a nervous breakdown. Nope. He was out. He was also my CFO. So that was super interesting. So I was on this real high. 2019, great revenue, awesome people, amazing. And then that was that. And it was a disaster. And I fought it very privately. And it's very interesting for me to be standing here telling you all this because nobody really knew. And I'm proud of the people in the media. And I want to say thank you to all the people in the media that are here that knew and didn't say anything because it could have destroyed our business. And it could have destroyed my people because we were a husband and wife team that had a business that meant a lot to the community and for everyone and the people that worked for us. And you didn't say anything and you let me do that, what I needed to do. And it was amazing and I'm grateful. But I took over and it was great. So here we are. We're a year out from that. So that was a real low, but now we're on a real high. And then they said, well, you're not really going to ever survive being a single mom. And I'm like, I'm not a single mom. I got my mom who a week after my dad died had a heart attack in the car after dialysis. It was a disaster. And I had my second date with John. John thought I was actually avoiding him. He was like, how does someone's dad die? Mom had, like, this whole thing sounded made up. Thank you for believing me. I really appreciate that. Because it was awful. It was truly horrendous. And you can't write it. It was a very low of my, like, I thought the other piece was low. This was a disaster. This was like, okay, we're coming back from COVID. Life is good. My dad died. And then my mom almost died, and she lived in a hospital for a while. And thank you to all the people at Overlake who saved her. And she walked me down the aisle on September 8th. Yeah. Right here in this room. It's pretty awesome. But I think my overall point here is that life does not happen to you. It really, truly happens for you. And the quicker you can get to that, the better off you're going to be. Because I spent a long time feeling like a victim. I never said it to anybody. Probably my best friend who was trying to like break in here tonight, which was so interesting. I know she could have just come here, but I think my point is like when somebody's when you're laying on the ground and you're like, I can't do this, I'm all by myself. I cannot do this. And that person looks at you and says, you already are. The fact is, just remember that you already are, male or female. Like, you already are. You have everything you need to do what you need to do. And I think what I started to realize is, like, who do I want in my boat? Like, stuff's going to happen, but who do you want with you when it does? Because that sucker's going down. Every once in a while, it's going. And it's like, well, who do you need in your boat? Are they going to grab the oar, or are they going to throw the bucket at you? Right? And so I think what you see here, my why, my beautiful husband said to me, that was his vows. He said, I found my why. And you know what? At the end of the day, between the people I lead every day and my children, and even my crazy ex-husband, who I'm still friends with. I've been friends with him forever. We've known each other since we were 19, for the love of God. But I think my point is, like, you just have to look at your why. You have to be very selective about who's in your boat. You have to figure out when it's going down. Are they going to, again, grab your mask and give you the oxygen? Or are they going to try and suffocate you to death? It's very dramatic. I also figured out that I was not alone, right? And that's, I think, the biggest thing. I was not alone. And it took a long time for me to figure that out. The negative fuel cell that you operate from when you have a chip on your shoulder and you're like, Jesus, JMJ, for the Catholics in the room. I mean, you just look at it and you're like, how did I do this? I didn't do this by myself. I didn't create a $60 million business with 600 people in 4 states and, doing like a general do-gooder by myself. I turned myself into the DJ Khaled of community work. Where's Jordy? I always wanted to yell. I'm not going to do it. Somebody else is going to do it. I'm not going to yell, we the best music. But the point is that when you accept that life happens for you, you're able to celebrate. And you're able to say, I matter. And you matter to me. And you can do really crazy, amazing stuff like play cornhole with Ciara. What? And hand out 700 backpacks to kids who don't have anything and ask people to contribute and come alongside you and support a community, because even though we're Bellevue and even though we have one of the richest zip codes in the United States of America, we still have 33 or 34% of kids who have free or reduced lunch. We still have kids who are going to school and have nowhere to live. We still have kids who have food insecurity. We have people who don't have anything. And it is really heartbreaking. And so I'm so grateful for my community partners and the people in my community and all of the people that matter to me for helping me truly execute excellence. And if that means opening restaurants and feeding people, then that's what we're going to do. And if it means starting a really great university alongside of, because there's no more culinary universities. Who's creating our chefs? Right. Me. Right? Like, that's what we're doing here. And who is working with, I'm going to work until I get hit by a bus, I think, to make sure that life is not fair, but it should be equally awesome for everyone. If you have an opportunity to mentor, coach, develop, train, please do. And what I can say is that if I do everything right, it's not going to be enough. And it's never okay. But as my mom always says, it's always going to be okay. Because the people beside you will hold your hand and they will help you live through the tough times. And those are the people you want in your front row. And I want to say how grateful I am for all of you being here tonight and supporting all of the people in your life. Because we're great. Thank you for being here. But I think you're here because the women in your life or the people in your life that matter most and make a difference need to be honored. And all you have to do is say thank you. And all you have to do is give them a hug. We need a lot of hugs. I need sleep and probably a lot of coffee, but we need a lot of hugs. And when I call you, I'm never going to ask you to do something for me, really, except for if it's for someone else. And when I call you, I want you to say yes, because it's never really for me. It is for everyone who works for me and supports me and is in our community. And thank you for helping me tell my story tonight. I love you guys.